Are you ready to be shocked? We're going to talk about Barbra Eden, a legendary star who has been making people gasp for decades. She is truly unique, with ease and beauty that can't be matched. Do you remember the hit TV show I Dream of Jeannie? That's why everyone knew Barbra in the 1960s and 1970s. It was that show that made her a real star. Her fans loved how she looked and how classy she was. People know a lot about her because she's well known. But what if I told you that there are some rare old pictures of Barbra Eden that show a different side of her? There are pictures of this Hollywood star that make us wonder if we know everything there is to know about them. It's been hard to figure out her life for years. We only sometimes get to see her. Real life, most of the time, we only see her through the roles she played. There was never any doubt about how beautiful she was, but there are still a lot of questions about her. We can learn amazing things from these less well-known pictures. Some may even surprise you. So let's look more closely at these beautiful pictures. Some quick facts about Barbra Eden first. Now let's begin. Barbra Eden was born in Tucson, Arizona, on August 23, 1931. Her parents were Alice Mary Moorhead, who used to be Franklin, and Hubert Henry Moorhead. A fun story about Eden's family tree. She has a connection to Benjamin Franklin. People were not sure for a long time what year she was born. Some people thought he was born in 1934. Some people thought it was 1931. People had wrong ideas that persisted for decades. When Barbra was young, her parents split up. After the split, Barbra went to San Francisco with her mother. Harrison Conor Huffman was the name of the man her mother married in San Francisco. Harrison worked as a phone worker. Barbra's half-sister was born after Harrison and Barbra's mom got married. Barb's family had deep roots in San Francisco, where they lived. It went back 400 years. It was in the Parkside area of San Francisco that she grew up. There are also stories about families. One has a story about her grandpa coming to San Francisco on a clipper ship and her grandmother coming by cowboy wagon. We can get a sense of the adventure that formed her family's past through these stories. Even though their family was royal, they still had to go through hard times. The family was hurt very badly by the Great Depression, and it hurt them for a long time. Their money was so tight that the things they needed every day seemed like extras at that point. But that didn't stop Barbra's mom from taking care of her family. She worked hard and always found a way to make her family happy, even when things were hard. It was a small but important thing that she did for Barbra. She would sing songs to the kids. She later said that her family liked music a lot. She became interested in singing after that first experience as a child. Barbra did music for the first time when she joined the bands at her church. She used to sing by herself most of the time. She became more and more interested in music as she grew up, and she started playing in bands in her area. Some bands were pretty well known, and well-known band leaders like Howard Fredericks and Freddie Martin were in charge of them. She didn't understand how good she was at music until she was 16, and that made her start her official study. At the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, Barbra learned to sing with Paulina Giovannini as her voice teacher. After that, she went to the Elizabeth Holloway School of Theatre to improve her playing skills. Barb finished from San Francisco's Abraham Lincoln High School in 1949. That wasn't the end of her love for the performance arts. After that, she spent a year studying acting at City College of San Francisco. She first became known for her work in beauty pageants around this time. In 1951, Barbra participated in Miss San Francisco under the last name of her dad, Barbara Huffman, and won. She became well known after competing in Miss California, which got her this win. Barb was destined for great things because of these early events. She wanted to start her own career in Hollywood because of how good she was at singing, acting, and beauty pageants, where she would win the hearts of millions of people in the end. This is when Barbra Eden first appeared on TV, in 1955. At first, she got a spot on the Johnny Carson show every once in a while. Now began a job that would grow and be successful in many ways. In the 1950s, she started starring on popular TV shows and became known as a skilled and versatile actor. She was in a lot of well-known shows, like the West Point Story Highway Patrol Private Secretary and I Love Lucy. She could show off her skills in a more in-depth way in each part. That was not the end of Barbra's work. After that, she was in well-known shows like The Millionaire, Target, The Corruptors, Crossroads, and Perry Mason. Each show had a different cast of characters and parts, and she was in high demand as an actor because she could easily fit into any role. She became so well-known that TV shows asked her to be a guest. A few examples are Gunsmoke, December Bride, Bachelor Father, and many more. There was a long list of shows where she was a guest star. She was also able to work on many different projects. When Barbra played the lead part in the TV show, it was a big break in her career. The show was a comedy, which brought in viewers from a totally different genre. Now that the shows are over, let's talk about her movies for a while. Mark Robson, a well-known director, saw Eden appear in a play with James Drury. He thought she was great as an actress, so he asked Eden to work for 20th Century Fox Studios. She tried out for the part of Joanne Woodward in No Down Payment in 1957, but didn't get it. Still, the company saw how good she could be, and made a deal with her. Her start in the business world wasn't easy. She was turned down again for the part of Betty Anderson in the 1957 movie version of Peyton Place. Tara Moore got the part instead. Eden didn't give up. It took her a while to get roles in movies, but she did get parts in Bailout at 43,000, Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter, and The Wayward Girl. She didn't have to wait long to become the main character in movies. Also that, working with big male stars like Gary Crosby, Barry Coe, and Sal Moneo, in 1960 she co-starred with Elvis Presley in the movie Flaming Star, which was one of her most famous parts. Even though she wasn't getting parts, she kept going and made the most of every chance she had. She spent a lot of time with Fox. This was her last job at 20th Century Fox. The Yellow Canary, which came out in 1963, was her last project there. After that, she chose to leave them and look for other possibilities. This opened up a new part of her work, and she began to appear as a guest on many TV shows. A lot of big movie studios like MGM, Universal, and Columbia hired Barbra. It was mostly small parts in movies like The Brass Bottle and Seven Faces of Dr. Lao that she played in their movies. These weren't main parts. But they were definitely first steps in her job in a field that changes so quickly. In 1965, Eden's life took a big turn. Sidney Sheldon, the director, chose her to be the lead in his NBC show I Dream of Jeannie. Sheldon tried out a lot of dark actors before he chose Eden, but none of them seemed right. For Sheldon to spot Eden's ability, the movie The Brass Bottle was the place to be. It was also mentioned by some of his co-workers in the same field that Eden would be a great fit for the job. That's why he went up to Eden and told her that he thought she was the right person to make his idea come true. Eden was chosen to play Jeannie, who is pretty and naughty. Jeannie got out of her bottle by mistake when a scientist in US. Tony Nelson was an Air Force captain who was later made major. Lawrence Hagman played Tony. People really liked the show because Larry and Eden had a great relationship. I'll say more about these two soon. We want you to know ahead of time that their story is very difficult. The famous part of Jeannie was played by Eden for 5 years and 139 shows. It became one of the most famous things she did in her career and cemented her place in TV history. The show became a classic that people loved, and Eden will always be linked to the character. Barb Eden and Larry Hagman did not meet until after I Dream of Jeannie. During their interview, Barbra threw her arms around Larry's neck with a lot of cheer. In the end, Larry also told her that she had totally shocked him. He was scared for a second. Larry was known for being honest and would often say what was on his mind without holding back. And that's what they do since the first time they met. For both of them, this first meeting changed their lives. The first season of I Dream of Jeannie aired in 1965, and all 5 seasons were hits. It was over in 1970. Barbra played Jeannie on the show. She was a beautiful 2.5-year-old Jeannie who falls in love with Tony Nelson, the pilot who frees her. This astronaut was played by Larry Hagman. I Dream of Jeannie made Barbra and Larry popular, but it never broke the ratings records while it was on. With viewing on more than one device, the show has kept getting new fans over the years. It makes sure that its name will live on. Besides their chemistry on screen and the show's success, Barbra and Larry became friends and will stay that way forever. They were so good together as players that Barbra often said, "I've never worked with anyone with whom I've been so in tune and on the same level, acting-wise." She enjoyed both the fun and the hard parts of working with Larry. Barbra told me that he was very smart and nice. He was his own worst critic, though. And he had been fighting internal demons all through his work, she said. Their friendship stayed strong through it all. They both looked up to each other and were on the same trip on one of TV's most famous shows. In I Dream of Jeannie, Barbra Eden and Larry Hagman had a great, natural chemistry on screen. That fans often wondered if they were dating more than just on screen. But Barbra has always said there isn't a love side to it. The show aired when she was married to her first husband Michael and Sarah, and they had a son named Matthew during the first season. Even though she was pregnant, the show went on, and Barbra remembers how the costume makers came up with clever ways to hide her bump. They put layers of silk over her so she could play Jeannie without showing off her growing belly. They had great chemistry on screen, but things weren't always so easy behind the scenes. It was known that Larry was very picky. He was known for making everyone stay for long practices and make changes to the script. The people who wrote the show didn't always like this behavior. They had no choice but to say yes to his wishes. He thought that comedy didn't always work when it was first written. He would put in a lot of effort to make sure the stuff was funny before putting it on. If something wasn't quite right, he would spend a lot of time changing scenes, adding little bits of physical humor and other changes to make sure everyone laughed. It was hard work, but Larry did it with all his might. He was determined to give the best effort he could. Larry was very focused on getting things right, but he also had a happy side. On set, he was known for being a lot of fun. Barbra remembers some of the crazy things he did while they were shooting with great affection. In this case, he showed up dressed as a train worker. He showed up in a full monkey outfit another time. He always had a plan to keep the set interesting. Bill Daly, who played Roger Healy and was in the same group as Larry, thought there was more to Larry's actions than what met the eye. Bill thought that Larry's actions were an outward sign of his anxieties. Larry has had a hard time with the fact that Barbra has become the show's big star, he said. When things got tough, Larry would sometimes pull away. People wondered if the stress of being in the spotlight was affecting him in ways that weren't so clear because he spent a lot of time alone in his trailer. In the second season of the show, Larry's mood swings got even worse, especially after he decided to put his health first. His problems with tobacco and Bontril had been going on for years. For about 5 years, these helped him keep his weight in check, to get back in charge of his life. He stopped smoking and taking Bontril at the same time. This didn't work. Instead of making him better, it had some very bad effects on his health. Without warning, Larry went through rapid withdrawal from both drugs, which made him angry, nervous, and very sad. As his body got used to the change, it also started to change how he looked. On set, these mood changes were very clear in very strong ways. One time, Larry got so mad at an air conditioner that was making too much noise that he tried to turn it off with a firefighter's spade. Sadly, this hasty move did more than just make the machine quiet. It turned off the power to the whole soundstage by mistake, which caused problems. Larry felt terrible after that, and he thought that what had happened might cost him his job. He was sure that he would never be able to work again. He wasn't completely wrong to be afraid. Behind the scenes, the network was already thinking about putting Darren McGavin in his place. There was worry about Larry's crazy behavior and how it affected the work. On the other hand, Barbra stepped in to protect him. They agreed with her that switching Larry in the middle of the show would be a big mistake. They changed their minds because of how strong her case was. Larry knew that Barbra had done him a favor. He later told her how much he appreciated her help and even thanked her for saving his house because losing the role could have been very bad for his finances. But even though he overcame that problem, new problems arose during the 5th season. The network decided that the story should take a big turn and suggested that the show's main characters, Jeannie and Tony, get married. Larry strongly disagreed with this idea, thinking that it would ruin the show's dynamic. His dissatisfaction with this choice made him look for other options. After making up his mind, he was so set on it that he stopped talking to everyone on set, even Barbra, who wrote in her autobiography that he wouldn't talk to her or anyone else during this tricky time. Barbra still respected and liked Larry, even though he was acting badly. Her 5-episode run on Dallas, where Larry had become a star as J.R. Ewing, took place in 1990. It seemed like they had always worked together. Larry had a lot of problems in his life before he died of cancer at age 81 in 2012. After getting a liver donation in 1995, he quit smoking, beat his pill addiction, and drank less. She saw him last in Australia and thought he looked good. That's why she was so shocked when he died. She has always thought of Larry as a great actress and a close friend. They were very close, and Barbra was deeply in love and awe of him. Number 1. Barbra Eden. On the Andy Griffith Show, Barbra Eden got her start in show business by competing in a number of beauty pageants. The Miss California event was also part of this. Being in the public eye at these young ages gave her the courage she needed to become an actress. She began to appear on TV shows. She was on the Andy Griffith Show once. People loved the sweet stories that took place in the made-up town of Mayberry in this show. It gave Eden another chance to show off her skills in front of people across the country. Each of these parts made her a well-known actress in the United States, which helped her slowly build a strong career in the field. Number 2. Barbra Eden in Harper Valley, PTA. It was 1978, and Barbra Eden played the lead part in the movie Harper Valley, PTA, which was based on the famous country song of the same name by Tom T. Hall. People became interested in the movie because it had something to do with the famous song, and Eden's acting made the story even better. The movie was a big hit, and famous people were interested in it. Because of this, it was turned into a show, which brought the story to TV. It was first shown on NBC in January 1981 under the name Harper Valley PTA. That was the end of its 2 seasons, which ended in August 1982. Eden was on the show too. That's all there is to it. That's all you need to know about Barbra Eden. There are also some old pictures of her that tell their own story. A story about a girl who worked hard to get to Hollywood and prove herself.